Hello, Escape Collective podcast listener. I'm Dane Cash, and I'm pretty serious about bike racing, so you can imagine just how excited I get this time of year, what with the Tour de France and all. And I'm also excited for you, because if you sign up to join Escape Collective right now, your first month will only cost $1. That means you'll get full access to all of our bike racing news and analysis, tech coverage, and everything else in between here on podcast channels and also over the website. So you can expect us to be pretty busy over the next few months, and if you want to read or listen to what we have to say without hitting paywalls or missing members-only episodes of our podcasts, or if you want to talk bikes with the rest of our awesome community on our Discord server, it's a pretty awesome opportunity to join up. Plus, you'll be supporting everything we're doing here, and we really and truly cannot do this without your support. Head on over to escapecollective.com/TDF to sign up, and remember, if you do it now, your first month will only cost you $1.
Welcome back to the Escape Collective Tour Daily Podcast, everybody. I'm Caley Fretz. I'm joined for the first time this tour, but not the last, by Ronan McLaughlin. How are you, Ronan?
The scooter rudely interrupted you
Yeah, they won't be able to hear. I mean, they'll hear it, but the mics are good. Okay. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Welcome.
Thank you.
Did you see any cool bicycles today?
I seen a few nice bicycles. Nothing really new, but I got up close with the stage winner's bicycle after the stage winner had finished pedaling his bicycle.
Check that out on the website, I'm assuming?
Hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon.
I mean, I'm presuming he's going to be on a yellow bike tomorrow, so I should probably get that out tonight. It might be kind of pointless by tomorrow.
So. You just run like a yellow filter over top of it? Yeah.
Could do, yeah. I had a bit of a problem with my camera, so it might actually help the images if I did that.
Also joining us this evening, Jonny Long. Welcome back.
Hello. Here we are.
And hashtag
JROTWSJ.
It's such a catchy hashtag. It's so easy to remember.
Rolls off the tongue.
Joshua Robinson of the Wall Street Journal, welcome back. Thank you for joining us once again.
Thank you for having me. I need people to have dinner with.
All right, so we just sat down for dinner. That's why we're making a pod right now. Jonny, can you let's just set the scene for me? What's going on?
Since we've got to Rimini, we sailed from Florence this morning. Lovely. We all drove the route past the Duomo, out into the hills. Lovely. We now arrived in Rimini. There's been traffic, both pedestrian and vehicle-wise, since we arrived. I'm going to say this. I'm going to repeat what you said to us, Caley, and I hope you're all right with it. You described this as sort of the New Jersey of Italy. So any American listeners back home can understand where we are.
I think Josh and I will maybe get into that later in the show because we're both from not there, but near enough. We've experienced it, and we'll explain a little bit in more detail.
I don't want to go to New Jersey now, even more.
Well, guys, we have the first yellow jersey of the Tour de France, and it's a damn good one. Romain Bardet, in his final tour, let's remember, just took the first yellow jersey of the Tour de France in a daring move, a daring two-man move with Frank Vandenbroek and his teammate. Two DSM riders off the front. We didn't think they would make it. I was sitting there underneath the Astana bus where they had a TV, watching. 11 seconds at a couple K to go. We really didn't think it was going to happen, but they managed to hold them off.
We thought it was going to happen when it was like mostly downhill to the finish and they had 2 minutes. Then we thought it wasn't going to happen. And I would say we did flip back because we knew how strong the tailwind was along the finishing straight. And when they got to that finishing straight and you could see that they were close behind in the camera shot, but knowing the camera foreshortens it, you kind of thought with that tailwind they now have a chance. And actually it was like, it wasn't comfortable, but it wasn't. It was definitive in the end.
It was enough that they could both get their arms in the air, right?
Yes.
I mean, that was a nice thing. Like I said, the first stage of Romain Bardet's final tour.
And I think that's like, how often do we hear these stories about it's my final year? Last year with Pinot, last year and this year with Cav. And riders are coming into their final tour and they're like, can they get a stage one? And it drags on this narrative around, is it going to happen, is it not going to happen? And Bardet's just come out and like put that story to bed. Stage one, took the jersey. Couldn't really ask for much better than that.
Yeah, we actually heard from Matt Winston, director sportif over at DSM, sort of about how this all came together, and they came in confident. They came in, I think he said that they had, sometime end of last year, they stayed up till 1 o'clock in the morning kind of talking through the beginning of this tour and what they thought could be possible, and as he put it, Romain Bardet went away, did the work, showed up in flying form. I mean, let's not forget, he crossed a pretty big gap to get to that breakaway, and then essentially rode right through it with a teammate and held on for the win.
What's amazing to me is that this is pretty much the only set of circumstances in which Romain Bardet could wear the yellow jersey at this stage of his career.
Right.
This is how it had to happen. It wasn't a prologue. It wasn't a TT.
Yep.
It wasn't like even a sprint stage to start the tour. It was a super hard mountain stage or super hard climbing stage.
Mid-mountain stage, yeah. But hard.
On a hot day.
Is this an ASO conspiracy? Was this designed to set up a yellow jersey for Romain Bardet?
Well, if we're going to do a bit of an honesty hour, or honesty hora, as we continue to learn Spanish through here, I did have to Google that. We have heard...
We're not in Spain, Italy.
Sorry?
Italy.
Oh, we've already cracked off day one, sorry. Why am I thinking that? It's because Spain, I thought Spain were playing the Euros tonight, so I was getting ready for that. I'm fully Euros. Anyway, we won't edit that out. We've been hearing from people around the bike race, maybe in the bike race, that there's some suspicions that had it not been Romain Bardet off the front, maybe there wouldn't have been some motos positioned in front of the pair, maybe helping drag them to the finish line before Wout van Aert, who finished third, could overtake them. I don't know, I wasn't in the race.
Ronan, it doesn't take much, right? I mean, a moto as much as sort of like 40 meters in front of a rider can still have an impact, right? And they're definitely closer than that most of the time.
Yeah, unless you're talking like 100 or more meters in front, anything is going to give you an advantage. How much of an advantage you actually feel depends on how close the bike is, and then obviously the bigger advantage it gives you. I didn't see anything earlier on, but we were trying to like get ourselves to the finish line. But definitely one of the first things I noticed as we were standing outside this Astana bus watching on TV was within the last kilometre, and albeit it was on twisty streets, so I just thought at the time that the motos had got held up in the streets and the riders were going faster. But one of the things I first said to myself was, wow, that motorbike's pretty close in front of the two guys there. So I don't know if somebody has looked at that shot and thought, applied it to the whole last 20k, or if it was that close for the last 20K.
We did hear this exact same thing in the Unchained series, right? If you remember the stage that Casper Asgreen won, I think it was Philipsen that was yelling about it. One of the Deconic guys was yelling that that's not possible, and they were getting pulled along by the motos and things like that. I mean, maybe not, right? Like I don't know. I kind of go back and forth on this in that yes, you don't want the motorcycles to impact the race. Obviously, it's a really hard thing to sort of prove. There's also vehicles in front of the peloton, right? And it's funny, if you look back, I was recently watching old footage, don't ask me why, it's for another project, of the 2004 Tour de France. And back then, sort of without this knowledge of how much the motos could impact, you had motos all over, you had motos sitting right in front of riders. Like it was a completely different thing. And I don't know, there's a bit of history there. It's kind of one of those weird, silly parts of pro cycling that, it has an impact, but so do lots of other things on a bike race.
I didn't hear a word you said there. Mostly because the reason for much of the traffic that you may be hearing in the background is that there's a Lotto Destiny and a Cofidis bus parked outside their team hotel on a narrow street, blocking one direction of traffic. And now the local police here have turned up and are giving one of the Cofidis soigneurs, it looks like a soigneur, he was emptying the washing machine there, they're giving him an earful about the fact that his team bus is blocking the street and basically making the street a single file, and so you have traffic in both directions backed up, and a lot of people are getting very angry.
You say it's the washing machine, it may also be the toilet.
It kind of smells like it may be the toilet.
Thanks, Cofidis. Setting the scene. Did anyone around the table maybe have the sort of imp of the perverse in the back of their mind that wanted Frank Vandenbroek to out-sprint his team leader and nab a stage win and a yellow jersey? Because these chances don't come around all that often.
Well, for a split second, we were watching outside the Astana bus, and with the way that screen is and the sunshine on it, you couldn't really make out what happened. And for a split second, I thought Bardet had given them the stage. Given as in, like, not taken. Because I think Vandenbroek probably would have beaten him in a sprint anyway, but it did look like Bardet, and then Bardet pointed backwards like, oh no, he's taking it.
Right, but Bardet does look over, point at him to thank him, and Vandenbroek spreads his arms. And for a minute, and then also it was hard to tell which was which at one point. Because we're not used to seeing this kid off the front a lot, I'll be honest.
No.
Yeah, there was a point coming in there in the last couple of meters. I was like, is Bardet on the front or is Van den Broek on the front?
But it's not the done thing, right?
No, it's not the done thing, and the other thing that you kind of got to keep in mind here is like these are still they're human beings, and they're probably kind of buddies. At the very least, they've spent a lot of time together. They probably did a bunch of training camps together, et cetera, et cetera. Van den Broek is aware of Bardet's history, aware that this is his last tour. Like, if I'm him, I'm probably also gifting Romain Bardet the stage win, right? Like, this is the first stage of Frank Van den Broek's first Tour de France. He's got a lot of them ahead of him. Hopefully, he'll win a stage one day. This is probably the last opportunity for Bardet. I think internally that would have been tumultuous. I mean, it would have been funny, but it would have been tumultuous.
I think we were talking about this yesterday, not on the pod, but does the Bardet farewell tour feel the same as the Pinot farewell tour?
It feels kind of different right now.
A little more successful.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do a corrections call already because I was sort of, not making fun, but saying that Romain Bardet's farewell tour and how they're doing a visage or whatever.
Virage.
Thank you. To him, it's not the same as Pinot. It's sort of an Aldi version of that. But, I mean, stage win in yellow jersey is kind of better than just having your buddies on a mountain, maybe. I think Pinot probably would have taken that.
I think Pinot probably would have taken this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he went for it, right?
He did.
Yeah, a couple different times, actually, last year.
Bardet doesn't really have the sort of goat lore, the tortured guy who doesn't really want to race bikes. Bardet actually seems to like racing bikes.
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure Pinot ever did.
I think, that was kind of evident in his the press release about his retirement, which featured heavily what bike racing he was going to be doing next. Gravel racing. So he's like, he hasn't even retired yet, and he's talking about what he's going to be racing next. It's like, at least Van Avermaet kind of retired and Valverde tried to retire. Like, Bardet's already planning.
Every time there's a honk, it sounds like one of us is swearing.
That was honking at a mother and a small child crossing the road.
It is chaos.
Equal opportunity honking.
It is chaos here.
It is worth mentioning also, like, that call would have come over the radio, and whatever way you want to call it, that's Frank Van den Broek's job. He gets paid to ride for DSM, and the order from his management on that day was very much like when you give Jonny all the good stories to write. I just have to kind of accept it and let Jonny get on with it, as much as I would, love to be doing that, and vice versa. As much as Jonny would love to be writing about Romain Bardet's Scott Foil RC tonight, the order came that it was Ronan was to do that.
It's true. Ronan was supposed to do the bike story. Because Jonny doing the bike story would be quite funny.
I think I pitched this when we had our, not to get off track, when we had our summit thing, editorial summit in Belgium. I suggested both that tech and racing swap roles for like a day and we write each other's work.
Maybe not day one of the tour.
Not day one of the tour. Maybe day 6 of Guangxi. I think it'd be fun. Anyway, what else happened today?
Well,
Jumbo
let's talk about what happened behind. So,
UAE,
an incredible first yellow jersey. Like, I mean, you can't not love it, right? We're sitting here. We just finished watching the Italians, unfortunately for everybody around us right now, go out of the Euros tournament. The French, well, they got something out of today, right? They got the Tour de France, maybe in Italy, but they got their tour stage win. The rest of the French riders not so good after today. I think Valentin Madouas lost a minute. But
that's good compared to Lenny Martinez, David Gaudu. They lost a bunch of time. Someone sent out, was it 20 minutes or so?
Yeah.
It was a long time after finish when I seen them.
I can only assume, I mean, maybe not, but I would think that Martinez at least is probably on a stage hunting duty.
Yeah.
But still, they wouldn't have wanted to lose that much today.
Well, stage 4 is a good opportunity for him.
But it is, but also there's lots of other opportunities for those guys, and I don't think that they would have purposely lost it. But that's a nice little segue into what was happening in the rest of the race. So it was really hot. I think we just sort of need to lay that one out there. It's still hot. We're sitting here. It's muggy. It's like really humid. They went up and over the spine of Italy today, and it was, you're climbing, you're moving slow. It's hot. It's humid. It was pretty miserable. And we were talking to Mark Renshaw, and we'll hear from him later when we talk Cav. But he was saying the heat just kind of not took guys by surprise, but they weren't ready for it, right? Which makes perfect sense. The Dauphiné was cold and wet. Tour de Suisse, not that much warmer.
By the way, as you're doing the weather update, we also need a traffic update. Traffic is now moving again along the east-west axis of the Viale Regina Elena after police cleared the earlier obstruction.
On
Good
that
news
note,
for
Caley,
commuters out there.
today's stage was the hottest bar stage 1 of the Vuelta Ciclista at Catalunya women's race this year. Today's stage was the hottest professional race in Europe this year.
So this is what I mean. It was a cool
and
entrance
of all
to summer.
professional races, including the likes of Tour de Cameroon and Tour de Thailand, Tour de El Salvador, where you expect hotter temperatures, Tour Down Under as well. It was only 19th overall globally for this season, so it was in the top 20. I kind of framed that like it was not that hot. I meant it was quite hot.
No, it's really, really hot. And what that did was it seemed to really impact the peloton. We had a bunch of guys who were just not ready for it. The Dauphiné was cold.
Yeah.
There had been an altitude, which is cold, right? They just were not prepared, I think, for the heat today.
That now I remember why I was framing that way. Is because all these riders have been racing in Europe since.
Yeah.
If some of them had Tour Down Under, fair enough, but the rest have not been exposed to this kind of heat recently. They will have done a lot of training and acclimatization, and especially heat training is a big thing now, but there's something about day one in heat like that.
So what did we see specifically? We saw Mark Cavendish vomiting off his bike, which Renshaw said was due to heat, not to an illness. Gazzoli, the other Astana guy, also heat-related stuff. You know, I would very much point at heat as the reason why Gadu and Martinez were 20 minutes back. Like, it had a big impact on riders at the back of the field. But it also had an impact on riders at the front of the peloton, right? We heard from, it was Nielsen Palace, who said that it felt like nobody wanted to race today, and that every time a team did try to kind of take it up, they would just run out of guys really quickly because the guys would sort of overheat and pop off the back, right? And so it really impacted pretty much everything that was happening behind Bardet and Vandenbroek.
It is huge. Like we've heard so much over the last couple of years. I'll not repeat it now, but like we've done a whole podcast, performance process podcast on heat training, heat acclimatization, just what it does to your performance if you start overheating earlier this year. So we might try and get a link to that into the show notes or something. But even still, even as much as the riders and teams understand heat now, it can still get the better of them very, very easily.
Following on from this, how did this impact the way that UAE and Visma Lease bike raced today? Do we get any insight from the riders on that? Was there ever a plan? Because we heard from Andre Houtman before, and he was like, today's not really a day for Pogačar, it's too far out.
Yeah.
Did we have any sense
But everybody
of...
else didn't agree with that. Like, the talk of the town in the last couple of days has been Pogačar's going to take this first day, he's going to kick a hole through the Tour de France, and he's going to just, like, have the yellow jersey for the next 3 weeks, right? Like, that was what people were predicting in the last couple of days. And we didn't see any of that. I mean, we saw UAE take up the front for a little bit today, and then they ran out of dudes. Like, Juan Ayuso was way at the back of the field already. Maybe they didn't want to drop Ayuso. That's also could be
Visma
part
took
of
it up as well, didn't they?
Visma took it up. EF took it up. You know, EF is taking it up for a stage win, right?
Yeah.
Visma's taking it up for whatever. They just do that.
Yeah.
UAE was taking it up for Pogačar. But no one could actually kind of put their foot down on the race and actually do any damage. It was just sort of like these 50 strong guys just chugging along in the humidity. Can't really do anything more.
Fun.
For fun.
But
But yeah, it just meant that, you know, that main group pretty much stayed together. There were no real attacks out of it. We had the chase. We almost caught him, but I think if it had been a nice cool day, the course today, like if you just look at it on paper, suggested that there could be fireworks, right? It wasn't that far from the top of that climb to the finish. You could bring a small group over with you and maybe stay away. But yeah, I think the weather basically tamped it all down. And we're kind of lucky that Bardet and Vandenbroek had a bee up their bonnet and went for it. Otherwise, it would have been a real slow day today.
Well, they made the race up front, and then at the back there was also intrigue. So we had a graphic all day that showed the Mark Cavendish group getting further and further away from the front of the race, where within the first 45 kilometres of the first climb of the day, he dropped back, suffering from the heat. Renshaw, who we're going to hear from in a bit, said that, you know, there's so many liquids having to be taken on that means...
Let's throw to Mark right now, because I was hanging out with Mitch from Cycling Podcast, and we both caught up with Mark Renshaw coming out of the team car. So he actually hadn't been in the bus to talk to Cav yet, but he'd been driving behind Cav all day. And we got a bit of insight into what had happened to Cavendish today.
It was a one-day race for us, probably for a lot of guys. And yeah, the heat really caught a lot of guys off guard. The first 100 Ks of racing, super, super difficult. And a lot of guys on their hands and knees out there. But, you know, Cav came, I haven't spoke to him, I'll speak to him now, but he came really good in the second half. that's a standard Cav thing to have a vomit on the bike. I'm not shocked to see Cav spewing on the bike like that when they're trying to get in so much fluid and the temperature today, but losing Gazzoli is a big problem. So we didn't need that, and yeah, he also was suffering, vomiting there at one point. So I'll jump on the bus and see what the go is.
Is that an illness?
No, I think it's just heat and trying to overhydrate, I imagine.
I think it's all just a ruse. I think he was saving his legs today, taking it easy. I mean, did anybody actually see him vomit?
Yeah, it's on TV.
Right. Was it actual vomit or was it just water coming out of his mouth?
I mean, can't confirm.
Was there carrots in it?
I was standing at the bus when he came back, and he looked displeased. But he came back out, like, I wasn't there. You were still there, Jonny. He came back out later and talked to the media, which when he's, like, actually in any sort of issue, if he was sick or something, he wouldn't have done that, right? We would not have seen him again. So I think, yeah, you just had a rough go with that first climb. Got hit with the heat, got hit with just rough. Him and all the other sprinters, like, it was a big mountainous day, and they were in a gruppetto from, like, I don't know, kilometer 50 or something like that, which is pretty rough, like being in a gruppetto at kilometer 50 of 3,500 over the next 3 weeks. But not that surprising. And honestly, it wouldn't have been a story because they were nowhere near time cut. They were 10 minutes ahead of time cut. It wouldn't have been a story without the vomiting, which, granted, is notable.
Cav had expected it. They said it was part of the plan. They didn't want to get dropped on the first climb. I think they wanted to do that one, then get dropped on the next one. But the true test of how he was feeling and how the day went was that when he was talking to the media, he actually managed to make a small funny.
Ooh.
Which we're going to listen to now.
It's not easy, like I'd always say, like, if you got my body type now, don't start cycling because them days have gone. But we know what we're doing. Doesn't mean it's easy, we're not riding around talking. That was so hard, but we had a plan and we stuck to it. Okay, thing goes out, I'd like to stay one more climb with the peloton, but what we've seen stars really was so hot. But we're happy to make it, we're okay. And yeah, on to stage 2. It's a bit boring. That's the way cycling's gone, and so we kind of know. It makes a nice story to be close to time and that, but the time limit it's not really there to put people out, to try and get people out of the race. It's there to, when people are sick and injured and stuff.
It's quite a small funny.
A small funny?
Yeah.
I think you got to take it when you can get it.
You got to take it what you can get. Yep.
The wrong body type. The winner of 34 stages of the Tour de France has the wrong body type for cycling these days. Tough.
I mean, certainly the wrong body type for staying in the front group. Although he's not that big a guy. It's not body type. He needs, like, a little more aerobic capacity. It's really more of his issue. Anyway, Cav is Cav. Not the first time. Last time he will be dropped in this bicycle race. His opportunity, his next real sprint opportunity is stage 3.
Monday.
So I think that's what they're all eyeing. Yeah, Monday. Tomorrow actually has climbs closer to the finish than today did. They're a little bit smaller. It's Cat 3. But we'll talk preview at the end. We actually chatted with Charlie Wigelius, who's going to give us a little rundown on what the next couple stages might look like. We did have some brilliant headline ideas come in, Jonny. Now, obviously, we sit around, we write a story, right? We sit around, we try to come up with a halfway decent headline. You're trying to get something that's catchy, but also tells people what's actually in the story. You want clickbait, but you do want clever. It's a tough line to tread, and sometimes we need a little help.
I can't remember if we actually asked for this or if people maybe dismayed by the level of our current headlines that they're like, we can do better. But first up, we've got from the Discord user Ruckus Comp, workshopping a headline concept, which is, how often do men think about the Roman Empire? Remember that meme?
Which is good.
That's good.
Roman Empire.
The Roman Empire. We should have got Josh to do the proper Roman. The second one from Matt N, looking toward maybe a piece on Bardet in yellow. Roman taking it day-Bar-det.
It's good.
Got a nod and a slight eyebrow raise from Joshua Robinson there.
Sure, we'll take that.
Yeah, there we go. That's the 2 headlines. If you have headlines in reaction to anything that happens, send them in.
Unfortunately, it's a good headline that promises quite a dull story.
Yeah.
Yes, but I think I can live with that.
He might also have such fascinating nuggets as giving 110%, not looking too far ahead. and just wanting to do his best.
Is 110% valid now because of inflation, though?
It's just 100% now.
Right.
Yeah, unfortunately. Can we have a brief traffic update?
Traffic moving
Well, yeah, but there are
smoothly.
bendy buses coming past. I mean, this is, to be honest, lads, look, I think I'm a bit tired from the heat, but live podcasting about the traffic, we're not really playing a blinder on the first day. This is a conservative taking a day-Bar-det approach to podcasting.
But what I will say is that we're sitting hard up against the traffic here, and I've just had to tell Jonny to keep his arms and legs inside the ride at all times because we can't be losing limbs
You're gonna
on
lose a
day
finger
2
out
of the
there.
tour.
I think we know who the sheriff here is anyway, because he just pulled up in a police car with a phone to his ear, literally hit a scooter motorist on his way here. Just waved the
We
guy
watched
away
the impact.
as he complained about getting hit by the police car. Continued on his phone, pulled up, and immediately figured out that if we just moved the Lotto Destiny cars, we could put the bus in there and the street would be free again. So hopefully that's the final traffic update.
Any other thoughts about Rimini? Did you guys have something to say about the New Jersey comparison, or maybe some other American-themed things around in this vicinity?
I don't know if we want to talk much about that. We don't want to belabor this point, right? Because we also don't want to speak too negatively about the places that we go, because this is a lovely town, and we're lucky to be here. It is not a lovely town at all, and we probably won't go back.
The food is delicious
The food
for
is
Italy,
great.
but yeah.
I shouldn't say that. Beaches look great.
Yeah.
Beaches look like beaches. It's just giving me kind of like Jersey Shore vibes.
We're having dinner next to a tat shop that sells various things, and there's Pornhub t-shirts on sale. If you want to know, that's what the vibes here like.
Yeah, it's t-shirts, it's beach towels, it's kind of that like beach town kitsch vibe that you get at like the Jersey, Delaware, Maryland shore.
It's very Delaware Shore.
There are arcades.
Yeah.
Well, look, it's better to be honest, because in case if we bigged it up, if we did a Eurosport on this where everything's amazing, then people may come here on holiday and then blame us.
I mean, it's more of a local spot for holiday, right? Like you're not going to see a whole lot of Americans here, but you see a heck of a lot of folks from Milan.
I would say it's the corner we've seen of Rimini.
True.
Maybe there is a vibrant cultural center that we've just missed.
And historically, the Tour de France has taken us to the worst parts of most towns that we go to.
Yes, they're the parts that have hotels with big sprawling parking lots to park the buses.
Quick question. Rimini featured in Torino Adriatico in March fairly often. Do you think in March it's more or less depressing than it is now?
Many times more dire. Yeah. I mean, we're hip hop happening Rimini in July, right? Like this is it.
It's possible the vibes are slightly depressed also by the Italy defeat.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot
I think
of
if
sort of
Italy had
sad
won
faces
tonight,
around.
we'd see a lot more people out here on the Moretti thinking that they're going to be European champions.
Any other business? Is that pretty much it? We've got Charlie Regalia. Should we throw to him for the preview?
I mean, that's basically we're going to get into, really briefly. So before we hear from Jose today, let's just talk about the coming stages. So stage 2 tomorrow, running from Cesenatico, which is just north of here on the coast, up to Bologna, and it's a lumpy profile. So it does a series of climbs right near the finish, Cat 3, quite famous near the finale there. It's kind of like today, right? It's sort of halfway in between like a Mathieu van der Poel, maybe one of the strong GC guys that can pack a punch. You would have said an Alaphilippe stage
Remco
a couple years ago, Remco, something like that. Followed by a sprint stage, which is the first opportunity for the pure sprinters. Followed by stage 4, which goes up into France and goes over the Galibier before getting to Valois. So we've got ore category climbs coming on stage 4. But we thought we'd just go find a director sportif whose job it is to look at these stages and think about what's going to happen in them and ask him what he thinks is going to happen. So let's hear from Charlie Regalia, who's a director sportif at EF Education Easy Post.
I don't think I'm the only one who thinks that Pogacar's going to hit it as hard as he can, as soon as he can. He's got plenty of chances to do that. The second stage is tough. There's some tough climbs before Bologna. I think it suits Ardennes, Liège type riders. It's obviously a tough climb. Everyone in cycling knows it. The parcours around Bologna is longer than it is in Emilia, so there's more flat road. It's urban and that'll be tough. There's a bonus sprint there too. So that'll be a showdown. Obviously, it'll be hot as well. The stage to Torino is long, flat, what I saw the other day is that there will actually be a little bit of wind blowing, which is quite unusual for this time of year. I've never actually seen an echelon in Italy, but this is the tour. And I think that the sprint in Turin will be a hot one more than just in the temperature terms, because it's a relatively easy race to get there for these cyclists.
What about that stage 4? I mean, I'm on the stage very early. It's a hard day, but not a insanely hard day. How would you sort of characterize it?
It'll be intense and short. There's a long climb up the valley that isn't really classified, straight up to high altitude. So you can do some damage there. You don't need it to be 8 hours long to do that.
Jonny, you were giving me crap for my I don't know, somewhat disparaging comments around this town, but in the notes, should I read what you wrote in the notes?
Yeah, did we not cover it?
Yeah.
Did I not say it out loud? What did I say?
You wrote in the notes. You wrote, "Rimini is a New Jersey hellhole. Don't come here on holiday."
Yeah, but the idea is we had the note and then we say that in broader terms, which I feel we did.
I was just reading through the notes before we get to the end of the show. It's a succinct way to put it.
Look, we're going to Bologna tomorrow. It's going to be lovely.
Bologna is lovely, and I'm holding out hope that Rimini has some lovely bits that we just haven't seen. Anyway, let's get into the end of the show. We're going to hear from Jose Ben.
Is this a dispatch from when she came on holiday to Rimini earlier in the year, maybe?
No, we're talking Bologna. Because that's where we're going tomorrow. We always hear about wherever we're going tomorrow from Jose. Tomorrow, we go to Bologna, so it's time to talk about Spag Bowl. What is that? I guess we're about to find out.
Spaghetti bolognese.
Oh. Well, you didn't know that?
Is that a
Yes,
short?
Spag Bowl.
Yeah, it's not like how EF doesn't actually stand for education first.
I'm sorry. I was just saying that, I grew up with half of my family is quite Italian, and I have not heard that.
No, it's probably how non-Italian people describe it. Let's have a show of hands around the group here. Who knew that spaghetti bolognese was Spag Bowl?
Yeah. Ronan did. Everybody but me.
Can we get a show of hands from the listeners? Who could have figured it out? Spaghetti bolognese.
I'm tired, Ronan.
As we covered, it's hot.
We're only at day 1, but it is hot. Anyway, we're going to learn about spaghetti bolognese. The Italians do not condone what non-Italians did to their bolognese sauce. Mamma mia. That's the text that Jose sent me about what we're about to hear. So let's hear it.
After a brief passage through the small republic of San Marino on day 1, we stay in Italy for stage 2. The start is in Cesenatico, and that is, of course, to honour the late Marco Pantani, winner of the 1998 Tour de France. I've always found the admiration for Pantani a bit uncomfortable. The late 1990s, early 2000s were determined by that 3-letter abbreviation. But like many others, Pantani was not caught with a positive EPO test. Not in the 1998 Tour de France, I should add. And he's still celebrated as winner of that race. So do expect many signs of support along the route, because in the end, his story is one of great tragedy. On that, I think we would all agree. The route brings us to Bologna, home to one of the most famous dishes coming out of Italy. And that says something, because I think worldwide, people can name more Italian dishes than they could French. But don't tell the French this though. Back to Bologna, because as you might have guessed, the city is the name giver of spaghetti bolognese. I was taught by native English speakers, it's also known as Spag Bowl. But there is controversy on spaghetti bolognese. The mayor of Bologna says spaghetti bolognese does not exist and is fake news. Mamma mia! Has fake news even reached our dinner plates now? Well, according to the mayor, yes, and he's right. If you think you are being authentically Italian when you whip up a plate full of spaghetti, smothered in a meaty tomato-based sauce, garlic, and plenty of cheese, you'd be wrong. Rather than spaghetti bolognese, what you'll actually find in Italy is ragù alla bolognese, which is their equivalent meat-based sauce. You could put the ragù on spaghetti, but the Italians prefer a thicker sort of pasta, like tagliatelle, because there's more pasta surface for the sauce to stick to. According to Bologna food laws, where we find the official recipe, the tagliatelle should be exactly 8 millimeters wide. I honestly do not make this stuff up. Italians take food very seriously. It's the home of slow food, and the same seriousness is applied to ragu alla bolognese. The sauce varies per region or even per nonna, and that is Italian for grandmother. The first sauce with the name bolognese back in the 18th century didn't even contain tomatoes or garlic. The recipe changed through the centuries, but again, never ever should be combined with spaghetti. Bologna is also home to mortadella, the Italian sausage. It's the birthplace of Lorenzo Fortunato, winner on the Zoncolan in the 21 Giro d'Italia, and the birthplace of no less than 5 popes. Finally, Bologna is also known for having the oldest university in the world, and there was already a law school in Roman times, but when the Roman Empire collapsed in the 15th century, it took another 500 years for the university to be founded. Usually, the year 1088 is mentioned as the founding year. Oxford started about a full decade later. Fun fact, in the USA, they can't establish what their oldest university is because it's unclear what defines a university and what a college is, what I've been told.
It is time for us to wrap up for the evening. Again, we're headed to Bologna tomorrow, where we'll bring you an episode from stage 2 of the Tour de France. Romain Bardet, will he still be in yellow? Maybe. Probably. There's time bonuses available.
But but if he took 10 today and he had a gap, a sprinter
probably okay.
Won't take it from him on the finish line.
Probably, and he's clearly in form.
Yeah.
He'll probably be all right. That's our prediction. We do have to make fantasy picks, though, before we wrap up. You should be playing the Escape Collective fantasy game. You got to pick a rider for every stage. Who do you got for tomorrow?
Remco Evenepoel. Don't look at me like that, Ronan. It's my pick. It's like a Liège sort of punchy climb stage, no?
No,
well, look, I'm top of the Star Fancy Picks League at the minute.
That's
so
true.
Stay in your lane. Do better.
Wout van Aert.
I'll let Dilly Dallin. He beat me to my pick. I was going to say Wout van Aert, so we're
All right,
on the
I'll
same
switch.
pick.
I got Tom Pidcock. Josh?
I mean, if we're talking these guys, let's go Van der Poel.
There we go. Our fantasy picks for tomorrow. Make sure you get yours in, and we'll see you there. Bye-bye.